Hey everyone, Richard Gibbons here, your MLS Director for the Central Panhandle Association of Realtors. Today I wanted to go through how to do a comparative market analysis in FlexMLS. The first thing I actually want to start off by showing you though is if you're watching this video by going through our YouTube page or something, we actually have a CMA webpage that has just a ton of information. If you're on your CPAR dashboard and you go into this MLS link section, right next to where you usually find the basic training video, there's a new link there called CMA Videos and Handouts. And that brings you to this web page. You can also just get here by going to cpar.us/CMA. And what we have on this page is in January, we have this class where Robbie Hughes and Michelle Ginn came in and they taught a full hour of the old school way to do a CMA, how to graph a house, how to determine the square footage, how to figure out what your adjustment should be to make your comparables match your subject property. All these things. It was an amazing class, and we've done a couple things here for you so in case you weren't able to make that. First off, we have a link to all the 4 different handouts that were at the class. You can click each one of those, and I'll go through them in a second. And then right here, you have the 1 hour long full video of Robbie and Michelle's class. Now, fairly soon after this video gets posted, I'm going to have it posted right here. And then there's also going to be a shorter version where I go through Robbie and Michelle's class and kind of cut out the extra time that doesn't need to be in there. But then down at the bottom, there's also 2 other training videos created by FlexMLS that talk about creating a CMA as well. So just an absolute ton of resources available for you here. Just to go through these handouts real quickly, there's property sample printouts. During the class, there was a sample property, and then they had 3 different comps that they had pulled, and that's what they're talking about. So this data is here for you, so if you're following along in that class, you can see all that as well. There's also the competitive market analysis form that they created that you can download here and use. There's this list of adjustments that they recommend using. We'll talk a little more about that later. And then finally, I even uploaded the graph paper from the class on there for you. So all those handouts are right here. Again, it is www.cpar.us/CMA. We'll take you to this webpage. Or, like I said, just clicking on the link right here on your CPAR dashboard where it goes to CMA Videos and Handouts. So, I say all that because what I'm going to go through here is showing you the technical way to walk through a CMA in FlexMLS. In order to do that, you have to have a little bit of background knowledge about the market and information about how much things are adjusted and things like that. And that is where this form comes in that's on that page. It kind of gives you an idea of what adjustments to make. And Robbie and Michelle have been doing this for a long time and were gracious enough to create that for us to kind of share that information with everybody. Years of talking to appraisers and going through deals and things like that. So the best way to do this in Flex is start with a quick search. There is a way that if you go to menu and then CMA, you can get started on the CMA and add the comparables during the process. And I'll show you where that is. But it ends up being a little more cumbersome than if you just start in the quick search. So that's what I usually recommend doing, is just start from the quick search and go from there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start with locating our subject property. So our subject property is going to be 11807 Seashore Lane, Panama City Beach, Florida, 32407. So I have that on the screen here for you. So that's going to be our subject property that we're going to use. So we're going to start by creating a radius search that gives us houses within within a certain range of this particular address. Now, this listing is in the MLS right now, but we're going to act like it isn't because in most cases your CMA, or in some cases your CMAs won't be. So to find that, you come down here to the bottom and you click on this little pin down here in the bottom right. This little pin right there. And you type in your address. Seashore Lane, Panama City Beach, Florida, 32407. And you hit locate. And it'll drop a pin on that address for you. After that, you click on where it says use this location, right here in the center of the screen where a little speech bubble pops up. And then you're going to click on radius search. So here's where you can go in and you can actually enter the how far from this property you want to go. Now, this may be one you have to play around a little bit with depending on where you're searching. You know, we're looking in Palm Cove here, which is a very dense subdivision, so obviously we don't have to go very far. In this particular place, I'm just going to do 0.3. But, you know, sometimes you may have to expand some or shrink some to find the right amount of properties for you. You generally want to shoot for at least 3, but usually no more than 10 or so, because you also don't really want to overwork yourself. But otherwise, just hit Create Radius. And you'll see it'll drop a circle on the map for you around that radius that you chose. So that narrows it down to that area. So now we're going to flip over here to Status. And we're going to look at solds. As Robbie and Michelle said, you know, something is only worth what somebody will pay for it, not what they want for it. So generally you want to focus on solds because that's the properties that got to the finish line and were able to close at that price. So we're going to do the solds and we're going to narrow it down to 6 months. Now over here on the left, you might notice mine looks a little different. Yours probably looks a little more like this, where you just have all those dates on there. And if you see this little back and forth arrow right here to the left of the date, if you click on that, it'll change where it gives you a number of days back instead. And you can even click on where it says days and change that to months or years. So we're just going to go in here and do months and do 6 months. So we have solds for 6 months within this circle. So but we want to narrow it down a little bit more because, you know, we do have Moonraker right here, right next door, which is a little bit higher priced homes. So let's come in here and do list price, and let's narrow it down to 200,000 to 300,000. That should cut those Moonrakers out of there for us. And then we want to come down here and we want to do subtype. Make sure we're getting detached single family. That'll get rid of this one that was down here in Edgewater. And then finally, we still have 10, but we can narrow it down a little bit more. Let's just do exactly 3 bedrooms. So that gets us down to 9 listings that match this criteria that we're looking for. So in this case, you know, these homes are fairly homogeneous. You know, everything in Palm Cove is pretty much the same. So you don't have to do a whole bunch with these, but we're still using this as an example just so I can kind of show you how the adjustments and everything goes. So once you're done here, flip over to the Detail tab. And you want to take a quick look through the options that you have here and make sure that they're all pretty much what you're looking for. You know, these are all, they all pretty much have 1-car garages. They're all detached single families. As you know, the data in the MLS is only as good as the person who put it in. So you want to make sure they are all actually detached single families and that no errors were made there. You want to make sure that none of them are like a 4-bedroom or a 2-bedroom. They were input incorrectly, things like that. If you need to select just certain ones, you can use these little check boxes over here on top of the photo and select just the ones you want. And if you're going to use those, when we click on CMA here in a second, you'll click Use Selected. Otherwise, you're just going to click on Use All Results, and it'll use all 9 of the ones that we had come up on our search. In this case, they're all pretty good, so we're just going to keep every one of them. So on the top right, you click on CMA, and then Use All Results. So here you have 3 options. You have the full CMA, the quick CMA, or the statistical CMA. The statistical CMA is just a 2-click process. It just throws some statistics at you, just gives you your basic, here's your low, here's your high, here's your average, and you're done. And the quick CMA is the same thing as the full CMA process, but it just skips to the very last line. Either one of these in a situation where the homes are all very, very, very similar could probably be good enough. You know, if you don't have a huge variance in square footage, you don't have a huge variance in, you know, does it have a pool, does the garage different, or the different bedrooms, either one of those could probably be enough. But I'm going to walk through doing the full CMA because if you know how to do this one, then these two are the exact same thing, just less clicks. So we're going to do the full CMA and hit Next. Now when you're on this screen, there's two different ways you can move through the different steps. You can click on the tabs up here. You see each tab is a different step of the process. Or down here in the bottom right, you can click on next step. So one way or another, that's how you can move forward and backwards through this process. Now, just kind of going through each one of these, the for is you put the customer's name of who you're doing it for. So we're going to be doing this one for Emmett Burkowski. He's the main character of Lego Movie. And then as of, we'll fill in today's date. But here's the thing. When we get to the next page, there'll be a little save button up here where you can save this CMA and finish it up later. And I always recommend just coming over here and click on Always Use Current Date. Because if you start this CMA today and you don't click on this, and you don't actually finish it until next week, when you print this out, it's going to have this date on it. Whatever date is right here. And then you hand that over to your seller, and they're going to wonder why it took you so long to get it to them. So I always recommend using this Always Use Current Date, and then that way it'll automatically update for you whenever you print it. And then finally, if you want to type something here in the comments, check out this great CMA that I prepared for your home. Something like that. Whatever you type there is what will show up on the cover page. That's what this page is the cover page tab. So moving to the next tab is the subject tab. So this is where you're going to go and you're going to type in the subject and fill out the information down here at the bottom for it. Now, a little trick here. If the listing has ever been in the MLS, you can use this link that says auto-populate fields from an existing listing. And then you can put in the listing number. If you're not sure if it's been the MLS, while you're on this page, you can come up here to the Omni search box up here and just go ahead and type it in. And you'll see it'll drop down for you and it'll show you the MLS number right there. Now, don't click on it because it'll take you off this page. But you can take that. We see the listing number here is 689878. So we're going to come back here to the auto-populate fields from an existing listing. 689878. And hit submit. And it fills in all that information for you based on what's in the MLS. If it's not in the MLS, you'll just have to go through and fill these things out. And then fill out this section as well. Now, this section is what do you want to actually compare across your properties. So in this case, we're in Palm Cove, so things like your lot dimension and acreage are not very important. They're all roughly the same. Your design is not important here. Again, all roughly the same. We'll keep year built on there, and then we obviously don't need whether it's office exclusive line or not down here. So we just have those four. And to get rid of them, all I was doing is clicking the X over here on the right side. But now one thing I want to add is I want to click on New Item. And over here, you can add whatever you want. So if you can even, there's a one here for custom field. You can even add, if they want to know what type of grass the home has, or whatever you want to type in there, it doesn't matter. Of course, anything you do custom, you're going to have to go figure out what that house has. But otherwise, pretty much all the options in Flex are available down here for you. So I'm actually going to add garage spaces. And this home has one garage space. Not sure if that's true or not, but that's what we're going with. So once you've got it set here of what fields you're going to compare with, we're just going to move to the next tab. Again, you can either click here for the next tab or click on Next Steps. So this is where it's going to pull in the comps from your quick search. Now, right here, you can click on Add Comparables and then go through the quick search this way. And then it takes you back to the quick search. You choose what you want. And then you have to click a button that says Return to CMA. But that process tends to be a little more cumbersome. So that's why I do usually recommend starting from the quick search. Now, if you do have a comparable you want to add that is not in the MLS, up here you have this tab that says Non-MLS Comparables. And you can click create a new comparable there, and then go through and fill it out, and then click Add to CMA. But in this case, we have everything we need here in the CMA already, so we don't need to do any of that. Now, over here on the right side, what these do is the X will remove the comparable. The dollar sign just looks at the location of it to make sure the pin is correct. These allow you to move them up and down of what order you want them in. What you do is you just click and hold on the arrows and allow you to move it up and down. And then finally, the little dollars and change over here. If you're looking at this listing that sold for $240 and it has something in the comments that like, $10,000 was included for such and such, and you feel like the sold price should actually be $230 instead, then you can type in $230, hit OK, and it'll adjust that sold price. It doesn't adjust it on the listing itself, of course. It's just in the CMA here. But it does allow you to go through and adjust those if you need to. So otherwise, you're just going to hit Next Step or the Adjustments tab and go to the next one. Now, the easiest thing to do is to go watch that video with Robbie and Michelle. Utilize this adjustments page and determine how much you think the adjustment should be made for each one. And if you do that and you go to, we'll say garage spaces, and you want to do $5,000 per garage space, you can just come in here and put negative 5,000 because this one, the subject property has one garage space and this one has 0. So you lose $5,000 for that one, or you gain $5,000 for that one, and just go through and fill out your adjustments that way. You can come over here for year built. They're all roughly the same. Robbie and Michelle each do things a little differently. Robbie's idea was if you are more than 5 years apart, you do, I want to say it was $1,000 per year. Yeah, $1,000 per year. Michelle doesn't adjust for year at all. It shows how there's such a big difference in how everybody does CMAs. And one thing very important to talk about adjustments here while we're talking about this page, these numbers are all highly subjective. In the room of the class, we had 55 people in there, and everybody went through the same process and did the same CMAs, and I'm not sure we had any 2 people with the same number. It's a highly subjective process. It's not an exact science. But you do at least need to do this so you have a decent idea of what the value of the home is, rather than just taking a shot in the dark and then getting mad at the appraiser when he comes in under what your shot in the dark was. So these numbers on here, even these are just a good baseline. In an area like, say, the Country Club or Bay Point, having a garage that has, a 1.5 or a 2.5 to have the extra space for a golf cart may be even more valuable than one of these. Or in an area where if every single home is a 3-bedroom and there's only 2 4-bedrooms in the entire complex, that extra bedroom might be worth more than $1,000. These numbers can change not only subdivision to subdivision, but they can change block to block. So, these are a good baseline, but they're not gospel. They're not hard and fast rules. This is just a baseline of what Robbie and Michelle came up with. And you should, take a look at things around you, and as you gain more experience, you'll be able to tell these numbers for yourself. So back over to the CMA here, going through, if we were adjusting for year built, all these are within 5 years, but just as an example, this one is 2007, so it's newer than this one. So we're going to take $1,000 off of that one. Or, I think bedrooms are all the same in this case. Yeah, they're all 3 bedrooms. Approximate heat in square foot. This isn't on the adjustment page right now, but how Robbie and Michelle recommended doing this is look at the sold price per square foot for every one of these listings. It's on the listing sheet on the detail. And average them all together, and then take 30% of it. And you want to do whatever that 30% is, you want to do that number times the difference in square foot. So in their example, it was, I think, $38 per square foot. So we'll just use that right here. So if you have the subject property is 1,337 square foot. This first house is 1,225 square foot. We're going to do a difference of $38 per square foot, which is an adjustment of $4,256. It is less than the subject property, so minus $4,256. So you would just go through and do that for every one of these listings. Now, the other way you can do this, and this gets a little more complicated, but it also can save you time, is I'm going to click remove all adjustments here so it clears out everything for us so it doesn't mess us up. Down here, you have this button that says Edit Adjustment List. And if you click on that, I'm going to get rid of these three so I can show you how to add your own. You can go through and add your own adjustments to this CMA. So say you want to do, we're all under residential here. You want to adjust $38 per square foot. So you're going to choose square foot from the list. You're going to put $38 and hit save. And I'll add it to the list up here. And then we're going to do add new. We're going to do residential. We're going to choose garage spaces. And we're going to do $5,000 per garage space. And you hit save. And then finally, let's do residential and do year built. And let's just do $500 per year built. And then hit save. So you see it's adding all those up here to this list for us. And then we're going to hit return to CMA. And then all we have to do is click this button that says auto adjust comparables. What it's going to do here is it's going to warn you that it's going to add adjustments to the list. So if you've manually done some over here, like we had manually done garage spaces already, and then you hit this auto adjust, it's going to add garage spaces again, which is going to double it up. So that's what this warning is telling you. It's telling you that it's going to add new adjustments and is not going to adjust what already exists. So that's why I clicked the remove all adjustments button to get rid of those before we did this. But otherwise, you click OK. It'll tell you 18 adjustments were added, and you click OK. And then now you can come through here, and for each one of these listings, if you look at 213 Seahorse Way, it did an adjustment of $5,300 for the square footage. If you do 11816 Cabana Court, it took $532 off for the square footage and $500 off of the year built. So I went through and did all that calculation for you just by adding them on right here at the edit adjustment list. And these will be on here next time you come in. So if you just think that no matter what, a bedroom is always worth $1,000, if you just make that up and that's what you believe, you can leave that in here and you'll always be able to come through and just click auto adjust. Or you can always just come through and click on it and, so now we're in a different area and it's not $38 per square foot anymore. Now it's $50 per square foot. You just change it right there. Change your values, come back up here and hit auto adjust. So you can go through and you can fill out what values you always want to do for adjustments. You can just come in here, click on it, change the value, hit save, click auto adjust, and you're done. So that's adjustments for you. One thing I want to go back real quickly, I always forget this. Back here on the subject page. So I've gone back 2 tabs now to the subject page. There's a little thing here that says $ per X. And if there's anything in this list that you're going to compare on a $ per something basis, like for instance, dollars per square foot, you want to check that little box. And when we get over to the summary tab, I'll show you why. But what it does is it'll do some additional calculations for you that creates a chart that does it on the dollars per X basis for you. So otherwise, we were on the adjustments tab. You're just going to hit next step or click on summary and it'll bring you over to the summary tab. So the summary tab, this is your first glance at the new adjusted prices that you've created. So over here on the right side, you can see the total adjustments made and the adjusted price, and just go through and take a look and make sure everything looks okay there. And then it's going to take that adjusted price and give you a low, average, median, and high based on those numbers. And then this, remember we just talked about that little $ per X checkbox. This spreadsheet right here was created by clicking on that checkbox. So it gives you the price per square foot for each one of these homes to be able to compare to. And then down here at the bottom, it has an overall market analysis that gives you the list price, the sold price, average sale per list to list price ratio, average days on market, etc. So this page has nothing really to do. It's just all information for you. Otherwise, we're going to click on next step to go to the next page now. So on this page, this is where you have the recommended numbers. So you have a low, high, and recommended price. And that's from the summary tab, which you looked at before. But if you want to go in here, because maybe you calculated it by hand using Robbie and Michelle's handy dandy sheet here, You can just go in and change these numbers yourself, or if you just want to round up or round down. Like this one will make it 205, 250. This one will round up to 239. And this one we're going to make it 224, 500. So you can go through and change those if you want to, or you can leave them where they were. And then down here, this is asking how do you want to calculate the high and low numbers. If you leave it on calculate high-low price using high-low price from comparables, it's going to use whatever numbers you have typed in right here. Alternatively, you can come right here where it says calculate using a percentage above or below the recommended price, and you can set this to 2.5%, 3%, whatever you want, and it'll instead make the, I'll click on recalculate, you'll see it'll change it. Now the low price is 2.5% less than the recommended, and the high price is 2.5% higher than the recommended. So that's two different options you have there to use. But generally, I think you've done all this work on your comparables to get them right. I think you're just going to use those numbers. So finally, you end up on the Finish tab. And this is the page where you can just check or uncheck what's going to be included in the CMA. So if you've run this before and you just know that you don't want the search parameters in there, you can uncheck that and it won't print for you. I'm going to put everything checked this time so we can go through and see all of them. The two things I do recommend updating on this page is the satellite map, and then right here you can choose your default color scheme. So I choose a satellite map just because it looks a little better. The street map is just kind of a very bland gray Google Maps overview, and the satellite map looks pretty good, especially if you have a radius that's like a mile or less. It ends up looking pretty nice because you get a satellite map with little dots on it of exactly where everything is. If you go more than a mile, it starts to look a little messy, so you might want to switch back to street map, but satellite map is the way to go here. And then color scheme, go through and play with them, see which one looks the best for your brokerage. I'm going to go with teal because everybody knows our CPAR colors are teal and blue. So we're going to use teal for CPAR here. And then also down here at the bottom, one of the things it's going to do for you is it's going to print out the listing data for each one of the comps. Now, if you remember, when you're creating flyers in FlexMLS, over on the left side, you can choose things like the 5-photo flyer or the detail with branding. You can do that here as well, and it'll create it for you on a flyer instead. For right now, I'm just going to leave it on the BC full because that's what we're used to looking at on the detail screen, where it has all the information about the property, which I think would be a little more important in a CMA, but you do have that option there for you. Finally, down here at the bottom, you can choose, do you want to email it, do you want to save it, or do you want to download it? If you click email, it'll just take you to a screen, you put in the email address, type in the subject, and hit send, and you're done. But we're going to hit download right here. So it comes up for us as a PDF so we can take a look at it. All right, so downloaded for us here. We're going to click on it at the bottom left, and it'll open up a PDF for us. So you can see it pulls in the teal here up in the title. All this stuff is just what I have my signature set to in Flex. But you can see it says prepared for Emmett Burkowski from where we entered his name earlier, and then today's date. And then down here it has the comments that we put in. Check out this great CMA that I prepared for your home. So that's the cover page it creates for you. Here is the satellite view, and this is what I was talking about, where it actually gives you, the numbers showing where each one of the comps are, so you can get a pretty decent idea. And then the pin is where the subject property is. So, those same numbers and pins show up on the Google Street Map one as well, but again, it's very gray and bland. It doesn't add a lot of pop to the page. So I generally recommend doing the satellite map just because it looks better. But if you scroll down here, it gives you the listing of all the different comps and the distance of how far it is from the subject, all of them within 0.3 because that's what we set our radius to. Then it gives you, here's the subject property, here's the data for the things we're comparing on the subject property. And then it'll go through and have your comps. One of the nice things about these pages is it'll do 3 comps per page, but the subject property is always on the page. So you see here we have the subject with the 3 next to it, again, subject with the 3 next to it, and then one more time, subject with the 3 next to it. So you always have the subject right there to make an easy compare across the way. And again, you'll see the teal is being brought in here at the header and footer of each page, so you can brand it to your brokerage. Finally, we get down here to next we get down here to the price analysis. This is where it shows for each one of these listings, you have the list price in green, the sold price in blue, and the adjusted price is the yellow dot. So this 213 Seahorse Way, it was listed at this green bar here, and it was sold down here, but the adjusted amount is actually up by the top of the green bar. And you can see it shows you the recommended price as well. And then we also have a graph of the low, average, median, and high sold prices. And then this is where it starts to get into the adjusted prices for you. So you have the adjusted prices for each one, how much the total the adjustments were in this column, low, average, median, high comparison of the adjusted prices in the market analysis. That checkbox I had earlier for the showing the search parameters is right here for you. This is the chart that is created by checking that $/X box back on the subject tab. It creates this for you so you can see a price per square foot for each one of these properties. And then you have the listing price recommendation page, and then it just goes into the BC full for each one of these properties. So you can see it has, just the utilitarian look. And this is where, if you chose, the 5-photo flyer, the detail with branding, or one of those, it would show up with that flyer look here instead of the, very basic but has all the information look. And you'll notice that it doesn't have like the listing agent's information on there. It has your information on each one of these pages. And that should be the remainder of all the pages here. Let's just scroll through them all real quickly. There's 9 comps, so this entire thing's 27 pages. So once you're done there, you can close out of this and then just email it to them. It should be in your downloads folder, or you can click download right here and save it wherever you want to, and then email it from there. But that is how you run a CMA. Just real quickly to show you, I'm going to go back to search results. And I'm going to go to CMA and then use all results just like we were. But this time I'm going to click on Statistical CMA. Just to show you real quickly how this looks. You just click on that and go to the next step. And then right here, you can click individual listing information. It will add the listings on the list on the sheet for you. Otherwise, you can uncheck it and it'll give you just the statistics, and that's it. This group statistical CMA status you pretty much want to leave it on status. I mean, if you are, doing a analysis where you are looking at comparing the difference in bedrooms across a large number of listings, then you might want to do bedrooms instead. If you're comparing, 3, 4, and 5 bedrooms or something like that. But for our purposes, where you're just doing a CMA, you're pretty much going to want to just leave it on status. And then otherwise, hit download, and it'll bring up this PDF for you, which is just a 1-page, real quick. Here is the list price, low, average, and high, the sale to list price ratio, and how many days on market each one was. And then here's the 9 listings. So, in this particular situation, when they're all 3-2s, they're all right around 1,300 square feet, they're all in the same subdivision, you probably could get away with just clicking statistical and calling it a day. But it's still good to know those things like your adjustments when you get in areas where things are a lot more different, an area like a Kings Point or Forest Park where, houses are not all the same. That's where your adjustments really come into play. So one more time, don't forget about cpar.us/CMA. This is the website that has all this information on here for you. It's going to have this video, other videos, all the links to these different handouts we have. And if more things come up, we're going to continue adding it there for you. CMAs is, by far one of our most requested things for education. So we're going to get as much information out there for you as we can. As always, if you have any questions at all, feel free to give us a call here at the association. Josh and I will be happy to help you and walk you through this if we need to. Otherwise, thank you for being a member of CPAR, and you have a wonderful day.